welcome to the DNX podcast. My name is Sylvia Christman and I am your host, and I'm here today with my friend Noah Laith. And I'm so excited that he made the time to speak with us because he has a very, very interesting story and a lot of very valuable information about how to set yourself up globally and run a business. Hi, Noah. How are you?
Hi, Sylvia. Hi. Thank you. Thank you for introducing me. Great to be here.
I'm so excited for this. Well, tell me right now, I do this with all of our guests. I'm always curious, where in the world are you right now?
I just arrived back in Barcelona from Amsterdam.
Oh, beautiful. That's wonderful.
My first base at this moment.
Wonderful. That's great. I love Barcelona. I'm a huge fan. I will definitely be there this summer as well. So I hope I get to meet you in person. So Noah, tell me and tell us, here and the audience, what do you do exactly, and how did you get started in it? What drove that passion? Yeah.
So I'm originally from Baghdad, from Iraq, and more like than 30 years ago, my parents moved out because of a political situation. And my goal was back then to take care of my family, because I saw them suffering politically and to have to travel to many countries. Like until my 11th year, I lived in 7 countries, and we had to move like every 1.5 to 2 years. So one day I woke up and I thought, you know what, I'm going to make sure that my parents don't have to move out of a country, don't have to be financially unstable. And I've made it my calling to not only be financially free, but in the case that the country that I'm investing, or where I have my assets in a certain country, if that country something destabilizes, something happens to it, I made sure to myself that I have multiple income stream in multiple currencies and different asset classes. And I've been like obsessed because of my background and because the place I'm coming from and the pain I've seen, let's say, around me. I've dedicated in an almost obsessive way my life to having this diversification and plan B, C, and D in the case that something happens. And now I just like to share these things with my clients, my friends, my family, and my coaching clients.
Yeah. That's so exciting. I mean, I have 2 passports for a similar reason as well. So tell me, why do you think that people should have a second passport?
Well, it's actually a very simple question with a more elaborated answer.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
What do these countries have in common? Iran, Georgia, Austria, Germany, Belarus, Congo, Argentina, Peru, Iraq, Zimbabwe. All these countries have one thing in common. And that thing is that they suffered of a huge amount of devaluation of their assets in that country, or assets or currency. There was wars, change of government, confiscation of assets of their citizens, hyperinflation. All these points, all these countries, they had this in common, that the people that were there did not prepare for this. They didn't have a plan B. And me personally, I know some members of very wealthy families that had to apply for a political and economical asylum because they didn't have plan B. So having one passport is great. Having a second passport is like having a plan B, an exit in the case that something happened.
Yeah.
And as a business person, as an entrepreneur, one of the things that I urge my clients and my friends always to do is to study history. And we all know that history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. There is always, if you study history, kind of get a pattern recognition. You kind of like see where we're going to, and if you don't know where you're coming from, it's much more difficult to know where we're going to.
Yeah.
And because of history rhyme, I always like to study it and to see what might happen. So countries that are now superpowers might implode, and other countries that might be a second or third world country might become a superpower.
Yep.
So that is one of the reasons, let's say, why I would advise everyone to have a second passport.
Yeah.
And with having a second passport, you get a better choice of tax residency. You get a better choice to different network. To the reason why I'm living now in Spain is because I have the privilege of having a second passport. I have the privilege of traveling to many countries visa-free.
Right.
Now, if you have the bad luck to be born in a country where it's much more restricted, unfortunately, you will have to apply for a visa. And to be honest to you, the word passport used to be only for people who were traveling by boat. It was a pass through the port of that city.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, absolutely. That's true. Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, like it's almost ridiculous how the globalization, you can be like in almost any country in the world in 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for entrepreneurs, and is one of the main reason why you become an entrepreneur is because you want freedom. You want certainty of a financial certainty, but mostly that certainty comes out of the need of freedom. At least that's in my case, and in the case of me, my friends who are an entrepreneur.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a second passport and a third passport give you that freedom.
Mm. So how many passports do you have? 2? 3?
No, at this moment I have 2, and I applied for another 3.
Mm. Good. Yeah, I'm eyeballing a third too. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?
Oh, I said I'm eyeballing another passport as well. I think a third would not hurt. Can't hurt.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I agree. So talk to me why you should decide how much tax you should pay. What does that mean? Like, can you explain that?
Well, yes, like taxes, if you study, let's say, the history of tax, the reason why they have implemented tax, when tax started, it started as a way to finance the safety of a country, also known as wars. And a lot of people think, you should not be tax efficient. You should not have it's not patriotic. It's not patriotic to not pay tax. Now, I'm not saying...
Well, I think in America, people think it's very patriotic to not pay tax.
That's, I think, a common sense and sensible way to deal with tax. I'm not saying you shouldn't pay tax. I'm saying more, you have to choose your own tax. Like you and I know that there is a whole list of, let's say, bloopers of what countries and governments use the money of the taxpayer to. And to be honest with you, I prefer to choose the charities and the projects that I sponsor and that I support. They are usually more efficient, and I believe much more in the power of the entrepreneur and self-regulation of an entrepreneur and a society, of a community, than as a government.
Yeah, I think that especially in America, people would really agree with you on that. How do you feel about, for example, and we know we have a representation of in the audience of Americans that they have to pay taxes worldwide, global income taxes.
Yes. Yes.
What are your thoughts on that? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have mentioned clients who are Americans and who invest with us, and the beauty about United States is it's one of the best tax countries in the world. A lot of people don't know about it because usually tax is made, let's say, not for the wealthy. If you have a lot of assets, if you are very wealthy, you can have a very nice and effective tax structure. And one of the best countries to do that is United States. So usually like the people that pay most tax are like the person that have a normal job with a normal family, and they usually end up with paying the highest form of tax. And I always say, let's say if you work hard, you don't have time to make money. Now, and I want to add to that if you work hard, usually you pay most of your amount of tax in your highest bracket. As an investor and as an entrepreneur, there are many ways that are created by the government in the United States, local and federal, to, I won't say avoid tax, but I would call it more to be more tax efficient. And I would like to invite your audience, if they have a certain amount of assets, they have a certain amount of wealth, to go on a journey of discovery how to be more tax efficient. It will benefit from them. And you know what they say about investment? The highest cost investments are fees and taxes. So if you can save on these two, you will make in the long term a huge amount of benefit.
Right.
If you, just a simple calculation, if you are saving only 3% tax per year, in 25 years, that's 100% of your overall wealth. And that 2.5, 3% every year will accumulate, and the power of compounding will make it, let's say, explode and compound in such a high amount that you'll end up paying a huge amount of tax. So that's what I think about United States. I think it's a great country if you are an entrepreneur and an investor.
Fascinating. Yeah, I'm learning so much here today. Thank you for that. So you mentioned earlier to me that you should have incomes in different currencies. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for our audience here?
Yes, definitely. So the beauty of having different assets in different asset classes and in different countries is that not only you become crisis proof in the way that if there is a crisis in the United States, and if you have assets that are creating a passive income in another country where there is no crisis, you will become less emotional. And you know what they say about investing? Most investors fail not because they are not smart, but because they are led by two emotions: fear and greed.
Right.
And whenever there is a crisis and they see their stocks falling by 20, 30, 50%, and they see their assets going down. Now, if they have the same amount of assets, giving them the same amount of passive income in another jurisdiction, in another currency, they will not have this emotional fear because it does not matter for them. You become less emotional. It's like having plan B. If you have an passive income in the United States, in US dollar, and in pounds, and in euro, and in South African rand, and in Thai baht, you diversify your passive income in such ways. If there is a crisis in a certain area, in a certain currency, you will feel it less, which makes your power of buying harder. which will make your power of making decision more reliable, more logical, and less emotional. And that's why to our clients and to our investors, I always advise not only to invest in real estate, let's say in United States and in Europe, but also in different verticals and in different horizontals and in different legal entities in such a way that if anything happens in one project, it will not eat up the other project. It will not eat up your other assets. And you and I knows of many examples of wealthy families, of wealthy countries like Argentina, like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was an amazing country to live in, an amazing country to invest in. And a lot of people left, and I still have a bill of the Zimbabwean bill with a couple of trillions of Zimbabwean dollars on it. It's worth not more than a couple of dollars. And the reason is because of inflation. And because of all these reasons that I mentioned, because of governments, because of wars, because of just the normal rhythm of crises, a market becomes bullish, a market becomes bearish. It's just like a heartbeat. It's a rhythm. And that rhythm, if you follow it, you will see that one point or another, a crisis will come. It's not if it will come, it's more about when it will come. And if you want to prepare yourself for a crisis, I always advise to diversify your assets.
Yeah.
And a crisis is coming sooner than later. We've been bullish for a very long time in Europe and in the United States. And if you look at the big masters of money, if you look at the big investment gurus, people like Warren Buffett and Ray Dalio, they are now very, very cash rich because they know something is going to happen. And I always like to be prepared.
Yeah.
And so should the audience.
Yeah. Wow, that is so insightful. Thank you so much. So tell me, if someone's listening to this, right, and they're like, wow, I had no idea, never thought about this. This is really interesting. How do they find you? Can they learn more? Where do they start?
So they can send us, we'll give them email at the end of
we'll post the link below.
And they can send us an email. We have also courses, online and physical events of 4 days where we teach people how to find deals, the mindset of an investor, how to fund them without using your own money. So I call it OPM, other people's money. How to diversify your assets, and also how to build your plan B. A lot of people think it's very difficult to find amazing undervalued assets.
Right.
My goal in the last 17 years is to be a specialist in any country, in any place. If you put me in any country in the world, between 3 to 6 months, I find deals where the local community comes to me to buy. And the reason is not because I am super smart or a genius. I've been doing this in Thailand, in Netherlands, in Spain, in South Africa, in Morocco, in Dubai, in many countries. And I've always used this formula, how to find undervalued assets. Because a lot of people find problems and challenges and difficulties as risky. I always look for difficulties.
Yeah.
Let me share with you a very short story about how I started to buy problems.
Yes, please do.
To buy challenges and what I call them opportunities these days. Every year, I go with my sister and mother, I go to Thailand. And that specific year, I took my mother and sister and I rented an island near Krabi. That island was, let's say, 200 meters by 100 meters. Very small island, white sand, blue beaches. It was like a bounty island. And I was laying down in the hangmat. My sister and mother were on the beach, laying down on the beach. And my lawyer and partner called me. He called me, he said, Noah, I do not care where you are. You take now the first plane and you come back to Amsterdam. Back then I was living still in Amsterdam. And what happened? Our first building just got squatted. Now, for you listeners that doesn't know what means squatting, in Europe, in some countries in Europe, if there is a building that is empty, you can actually break in that building, call the cops, and tell them that you have occupied that building and it's legal. Now, for people from the United States and Canada, that's almost not, they can maybe not really find it possible to do something like that. But in Europe, and especially back then in Amsterdam, it was still legal. So they occupied the building, and I went with lead in my feet to my sister and mother, and I told them, girls, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is there is a boat waiting for me. I have to leave in 15 minutes because I have a problem in Amsterdam. The good news is give me 3 to 5 days and I'll be back. Everything is paid for. You can enjoy the sun. You can eat, barbecue, whatever you want. Have fun. I'll be back in 3 to 5 days. My sister was laying on the beach. She took her headphone off and she gave me a big thumb and she told me, good luck. See you in a couple of days. My mother said, no. That's not going to happen. We came all together. We all go back together. My sister went mad. I felt even worse. She didn't want to talk to me during the whole trip back to Amsterdam. We land in Bangkok. We take the plane from Bangkok to Amsterdam. We land in Amsterdam. I put my phone on while we are landing. And I still, till today, I never forget that feeling. I got 86 messages from many friends asking if I was still alive. Because that night, the tsunami erased the whole islands. And with that, a couple of 100,000 people died. We all know what happens in Thailand in 2004.
Yes.
I'm getting goosebumps actually telling this story.
Yeah, me too. I remember that. Yeah.
So
wow.
When this happened, I got such a huge mind shift and a mind fuck actually that I thought, you know what? This happened for a reason. And I'm not going to sell this building. I went to my partner. He had obviously not the same experience as I had. And he said, look, just take my share, give me 70% of what I paid off, and it's yours. I don't want to battle that fight. I'm not going to win it. It's yours. So I bought his shares and I went to the squatters with my mother and sister and some flowers and wines. And I went there actually to thank them for squatting the building because they saved my life. They did not expect this coming. Usually, the owners, when they talk to them, they shout at them. They have always a legal battle. I told them, guys, you saved my life. Let's find a way together where you can benefit from it and we can have a win-win situation. Long story short, when you enter with this mindset, you always find a solution. We found the solution. We solved it. I sold it 7 months later with a good profit. And that's where I discovered if I keep my focus on finding problems and buying other people's problem, they become my profit. And I became a specialist in buying other people's problems. Bankruptcies, inheritance, any problem that it's someone else, it can be an opportunity for yourself. And that's what we teach because problems usually comes with a big discount.
Yes.
So that's like my shortcut to how I started to buy problems and buy real estate, buy companies and different asset classes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, what an incredible story. I'm sitting here and just feel totally blown away by this story. So interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. We will definitely make sure we're going to post your the links to the online classes, how to learn this, and the 4-day events, and also an information on how to get in touch with you directly below this podcast. So thank you, Noah. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing this wealth of knowledge with us.
Thank you. With pleasure is mine. Thank you, Sylvia, for inviting me.
Thank you. And before we leave, I just want to ask everyone a favor here. If you have not subscribed on iTunes yet, please go to iTunes at dnxpodcast.com. Go to iTunes, subscribe to us, leave us a review. We want to make sure that as many people as possible can listen to these podcasts. We love them. I hope you love them. And if you want to get in touch with us, always feel free to send us a direct message. We will respond to you directly right away. Thank you. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your ongoing support. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Please go check out dnxcommunity.com. This is where you'll find the other nomads and evaders of convention. We'll see you there. And if you're interested in our English-speaking events, go and check out dnxglobal.com. You'll find the link below this podcast as well. And if you have time, one last favor, please go to iTunes, look for Sylvia Chrisman or look for the DNX podcast and leave a review. Thank you so much, lovely people, and I'll talk to you next time.